Welcome to Life is for Living. I'm Kylee Buckley and I'm here with David J Riddell. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Good to be
So,
with you.
yes, and you. Let's talk tonight about post-traumatic PTSD, post-trauma, and how to recognize what it is and, you know, yeah, and the symptoms of it and how to help those that have it.
Yes, surely it's something that psychotherapists and counsellors work with every day. And I'm of the opinion that it's a continuum, really, from some bad memories right through to a life dominating problem. Exactly when you qualify to have PTSD is on the grey scale. But I do think that it's become plain to me that some people inherit from their early childhood and early years a shocking echo that continues to trouble them for the rest of their lives if it's not dealt with. And when I say dealt with, I don't mean that glibly. I mean some very specific steps that people need to take to free themselves of the past and to free themselves of this cling on from history that can cause chaos if it's not addressed.
Hmm.
It's often the invisible, hidden, underlying factor in divorce, and often never diagnosed as the real culprit behind the marriage breakup. But trust me, when people are acting irrationally or when they are emotionally unstable, or where they are misinterpreting and misconstruing repeatedly, the first thing I look for really is evidence for PTSD.
Right.
And the reason for that is because the inheritance of PTSD is really emotion based reasoning. This person reasons with their feelings, with their emotions, particularly in regard to any echoes that are coming up for them from behind the scenes. Now, I say behind the scenes because psychologically, strictly speaking, these are not memories that we're working with. They're better understood as echoes
Right.
because they slam into people from behind. And the person is not always, in fact, not often aware that they're at the mercy of an echo that is causing them to misinterpret, to misconstrue, and most dangerous of all, to misinterpret reality. In other words, to have reality, which we can say is right in front of them, even eclipsed by the memories and echoes of the past, which means that they're terrified to be in a vehicle, or they're terrified when a man raises his voice at them, or they're frightened of enclosed spaces or anything that triggers echoes of that traumatic time. And so you could say that there is a ongoing avoidance of anything even related to the experience that the brain has labeled as dangerous, extremely dangerous.
Right. What about those that, because I did a bit of reading up about it, and one of the things that I learned was that you can hold trauma in your nervous system, in your sympathetic nervous system. And
Yes, yes, that's right. It's like a psychological bubble or a boil that needs to be lanced. And every now and again in counseling, one of these boils is lanced, and then we have a cathartic release of emotion. Sometimes it's just a pocket of pain trapped in their emotions or trapped in their psyche, and they can live quite happily until one day somebody presses on this pocket of pain and they can get quite a reaction. But you're right, the body does keep score, and certainly the nervous system can take damage, which it never forgets.
yes.
And
And
every
what about,
time,
sorry.
carry on.
And what about people that are getting over something that was bad that happened to them. They can't get out of bed. I'm not talking depression, but I'm just talking about low energy where they're healing. Um, that's another part of it too, isn't it? It's, like it can take somebody a month, somebody 5 years to actually heal and get over trauma, depending on the length that you've endured it.
Look, I'm not sure whether to put that down to something physiological or just to put it down to the fact that their motivation, their sense of life being a safe place, their sense of victory and self confidence has really taken a hammering. They've been kicked in the gut and they're still winded years later. And who wants to get up to a day of danger or a day of failure or a day of echoes? So it could be that that is undermining their enthusiasm for life, or it could be, as you say, a physical impairment, which is really a psychosomatic illness. And a psychosomatic illness is also a left behind of PTSD, but not in every case.
Mhm. So, for those sorts of people, um, what would you think would be a good way of healing? Because I know for me, if you go through something, it's good to actually try something new or learn something new, sort of invest in yourself in a new way, in a different way.
Well, look, the sooner you can say to yourself, that was then and this is now, then your brain starts compartmentalizing and relegates it to history. The problem comes when the brain has not yet relegated this trauma to history. It's still very much a present danger. And of course, firemen and police get perfed out of their careers because they cannot recover from the red alert or the uh, mm, panic that they experienced back in that dreadful accident.
Mhm.
And it takes them a while to recover, and some don't recover. The
Mhm.
reason for that, of course, is that the alarm bells have been going and nobody's turned them off yet. So a year later, the alarm bells are still ringing and they can wake in the middle of their sleep with a tremendous burst of adrenaline. What was that? Well, it was a bad dream, wasn't it? So
Mhm.
certainly sleeplessness and interrupted sleep and bad dreams, mood instability, even autoimmune conditions can result from PTSD. And it does show up in different ways in different people, depending on how they were affected, how long ago, and to what degree they've actually dealt with it.
Interesting. And I suppose really it will linger with somebody until they really do deal with it. Talk about it, open it
Yep.
up, and put it to bed.
Well, it's possible for the subconscious to go on red alert, and even long after the trauma is behind them, their subconscious is still on red alert. There's still a low level anxiety there. They're easily frightened, they easily startle. I keep pigeons as one of my hobbies, and I'm very aware of the startle reflex. And if you work with birds, you'll know that the startle reflex is something you never want to trigger because it's just pandemonium and chaos and results in broken bird wings and things. And it's the same for some people who have been traumatized. They have this startle reflex that just takes over in the event of trauma. Let me tell you a short story that illustrates what I'm saying. Many years ago, driving down the road in my landscaper's truck in Dunedin City, there was a tremendous noise that we couldn't tell what it was or where it was coming from, but it made the whole truck shake with the noise of it. And I had two Cambodian refugees working with me at the time. And before I understood what had happened, they had opened the door of the truck while I was still speeding along, jumped out onto the road, and taken cover in the nearest ditch. And I brake to a halt just as the biggest Royal Australian Air Force bomber flew low overhead,
Oh,
possibly breaking the sound barrier. I don't know, but it was the loudest noise I've ever heard in my life. But I backed up to these boys in the ditch, laughing because of the getting over the fright of it all. They were not laughing. They just said to me, Brother David, if you had have been in our country now, you would have been burning alive and we would have been saved.
wow.
You
Yeah.
see, they were still on red alert, having come through the Viet Cong War.
Yeah.
And they were still on red alert, and it only took a noise they couldn't identify to take them back to that moment. At
Hmm.
that moment, it didn't matter that New Zealand wasn't at war. At that moment, it didn't matter that they weren't in their own country. Their bruise, shall we say, took over. Now,
Yes.
those survival kits are very typical of PTSD. Your escapism, your quick fix, your defense mechanism will kick in before you have any say at all.
Mm.
And you will lash out, you will verbally abuse, you will run, you will do whatever it takes to survive that feeling. And later you can try and fix the damage you've caused. But at the time, only one thing matters, and that is to survive this unbearable feeling.
Hmm. Wow. It's quite a vast topic, really, isn't it?
It is, and as I said at the beginning, I think it's a sliding scale. I think it affects far more people than you might
Mm.
realize. But the giveaway to it is that people are reacting out of all proportion to what actually happened.
Yeah.
Whenever I observe a reaction that's out of all proportion to what actually happened, maybe you playfully dunk somebody in the water and there's an immediate scream or panic reaction, or maybe you play a joke on them and the reaction is out of all proportion, then you can be fairly certain that somebody just had their bruises kicked or pressed on.
Yes. Yes.
Look for a reaction that is out of proportion to what was said or what was done.
Hmm. So, for those that have an issue in an area, does time heal it, or should you have someone press on the bruises deliberately so that you can get used to it and deal with it?
You'll find that life does that without us having to try it. Um, Certainly, some therapists have advocated desensitizing through stimulating the bruise. For me personally, I believe it's the truth that sets you free, not rehearsing the trauma. That can actually leave you worse off because now you've been re traumatized.
Mm.
No, it's the right reassurance at the right moment. And
Hmm.
it needs to be something far stronger than just positive thinking. It needs to be something that goes to the heart of the issue and goes to the heart of the matter. They're on hyper alert, so they need some deep reassurances to dwell on each day to bring that part of their brain into peace and to bring that part of their mind into the reassurance of adequate resources now.
Hmm.
In the meantime, they might have to be coached in not doing any more emotion based, emotion driven reasoning.
Hmm.
The dawning realization that actually my feelings are lying to me, they are misrepresenting this situation. I need to step around these feelings, no matter how strong they are, because they are stuck in the 50s or
Hmm.
60s or 70s or however young you are.
Yes, yes. And that's very true, isn't it? And we can all relate to that in various areas of our lives, I'm sure, that our feelings do lie to us.
Well, being an old fella now, I got to tell you that every now and again I'll get an echo that goes right back to the 50s, just about before memory was invented. And every now and again I can get slapped by something that goes way back to my childhood. And no problem now. I recognize it, I reassure myself, I steady myself psychologically,
Mm,
and I just plow on through. But there was a time when I had none of those skills. I would go into all out reaction, and
mm.
God help anybody who was within close range.
Right, yes. Well, yeah, what you've learned is fantastic, and it's great that we can share it to others and
Yep,
you
pass it
through
on,
through your school
pass it
of
on.
living wisdom. So,
Well, I could have recovered from that my traumatic childhood far, far sooner had I had someone to share these insights with me back in the day.
yes, well, that's right, and that's what it is, isn't it? It's the insights.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. It's only the truth at the end of the day that is really going to set a person free.
Mm,
You can do all kinds of psychological wizardry, but unless they get that right reassurance to steady them,
yeah.
it's more like magical behaviorism, in my view, and it doesn't usually have a long-term effect.
No, it's not permanent. It's a band-aid. Yeah. Hey, well, thank you, David. Much appreciated. We'll leave it there. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.